when he's not talking about how he wants to kill 90% of us. And I know that sounds crazy. We're not the ones that are crazy. They're the ones. But when you really study the UN, that biological diversity assessment talks about bringing back wars and famine and human sacrifice. I mean, you can't make this up. And then you have the State Department Memorandum 200 saying we'll use wars and pestilence and starvation to do it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, this whole thing with these epidemics and all the rest, some of these things are natural. I mean, they do happen. But when you start seeing them on a regular basis, intercoordinated with a lot of other things going on, it's not a coincidence. They're deliberately doing it for some unknown reason. Well, we know what the reason is. They want to gain control, basically, reduce the human population and control every single thing
Doctor.
they do.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you study history and other civilizations, the elites, just to exercise power, would routinely say, kill all the firstborn. Or they'd say, go kill half the slaves. Got to keep the slave numbers down. Got to keep them dumbed down. Got to keep them on the verge of starvation. So they're so busy worrying about getting enough to eat, they won't resist you. This is how elites manage people. In fact, in the next segment, will you cue up Holdren with that AP clip of him talking about weather control? That's another issue is, in some of these eugenics reports, they say they'll use wars, famine, and weather. And then we have Secretary of Defense Cohen at the time in 97 saying they'd use weather weapons for this. I can show folks Army.mil, the text. And then I've had, but now Bill Gates is in the news. In the Associated Press today, Bill Gates envisions fighting hurricanes by manipulating the sea. Well, that's exactly what Stanford Research Institute certified a long time ago. My point is, they're using the shadow government and all these high-tech systems. I believe, Dr. Coffman, that they're going to create weather calamities as a pretext for creating the society of control, because they've studied chicanery and scams of old. And the old witch doctors 6,000 years ago, they would tell the tribe, give me the best food, give me the best hut, or the snake god won't spit the sun out. Well, he just knew when the eclipse was coming, and he was manipulating them. And that's all this is con artist criminals who also like to be sadistic killers doing what every other elite's done. It's just a high-tech version. That's right. I totally agree with you. There is no question that climate modification and control is very much part of this agenda. There's been major experiments done on that in Alaska, and we have seen some evidence of that. You know, it's hard to say for sure exactly how they do it and when they do it. I'm not a physicist, but I do know that they actually interrupt the ionosphere, and the ionosphere is where our weather is born. So if they can control what happens there, they basically control climate to a greater or lesser degree. It's just one of those things that all of these things, I don't care if it's eugenics, it's climate control, it's legislation like cap and trade, the health care bill, whatever it is all coordinated to achieve a certain goal that you have been describing during this hour. Well, every day, no exaggeration, I think today I printed off 5 or 6 or so mainstream articles with, Bill Gates is going to save us from hurricanes. He just got an idea of cloud seeding. He invented it. He's a genius. Meanwhile, 4 years ago, I had the father of weather weapons on the show, who was doing this in Korea and Vietnam, Ben Livingston, and it was declassified. They were creating, steering, killing, weakening, whatever they wanted, hurricanes certified by the U.S. government in 1967. And then now Holdren comes out like he's some genius and says they've just invented this and that it's his idea. So it's like Al Gore saying he invented the Internet. Yeah, right. I mean, there's no end to it. And then all these newspapers and magazines I have say, the global warming's so bad, they've got to save us, and they're going to now smokescreen their weather manipulation, creating the crisis in the name of fixing it. So while they're creating a crisis, droughts, hurricanes, all this stuff, floods, they're going to cover their own operation and that they're fixing it. And exactly what we said they were doing with the chemtrails, with the barium and aluminum dioxide, now that's what they propose in the Wall Street Journal and Atlantic Monthly and other publications. and in AP that they're going to do to save us. Now, how did we just imagine the chemtrails were barium salts and aluminum dioxide with all these climatologists we had on, and then Dr. Coffman, it ends up magically, they go, oh yeah, we've been doing secret test programs. All this giant global level terraforming was just a test.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? You know, I talked about the Wildlands Project and what the Convention on Biological Diversity was going to do for 5 years before it was finally introduced in the U.S. Senate. Nobody believed a word I said, and here it is, now 10 years after the fact, or 15 years after the fact now, and it's full-blown, it's doing everything that I said it was going to do back in the late 1980s. You and I have both done this, where we have predicted, based on what we've seen, the papers and so forth, of what is they're planning behind the scenes, that sooner or later, within 5 to 12 to 15 years, going to be mainstream. And you can't get people to believe it because it wasn't published in the New York Times.
Amazing. We got a long segment coming up, and I want you to talk about the fact that we can beat this and fight it, because you've done that single-handedly before. You've been doing this for decades, and you did warn about the wetlands. Now we have the
Yes.
Water Quality Restoration Act that federalizes basically the whole country. They're really making their move, but the good news is we're aware of it, thanks to you and others. We're going to be able to fight them. The new video is Global Warming, Emerging Science and Understanding. Hot off the presses. Get this now at Infowars.com.